Trade is an important part of any nation. Imports and exports make a difference to an economy. Resources are sold off to some nations, while others are purchased. Globalization certainly has its benefits because of the versatility it offers. However, it has become obvious that the so-called free trade agreements are absolutely not free. They come at a price to the loss of jobs and the liberties of the people. Lobbyists protect the marriage of government and corporations, and it only seems to be getting worse. The TTIP is designed specifically to further continue the nations of the world into a unified conglomerate run and ruled by the faceless, corporate, technocratic elite lurking in the shadows. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we will be talking about the TTIP, yet another supposed free trade agreement. We've all heard this before. Let's get into it right away. The TTIP, also known as the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. That sounds really good on the outside. I mean, you read that if you're one of those people who just skims over the news and you look at the front page news and perhaps, you go to CNN and you check it out. You read Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership. That sounds really good. I mean, it's the US and it's Europe and they're doing trade in between each other. That means more money. That means a stimulation to the economy. And that means more money in your pocket. At least that's what the general public feels. They don't know anything at all about it. All they know is that it says investment partnership and they feel great about that. Well, let's get into the reality. Let's get into the truth. That's what you're here for. Tens of thousands of opponents of a proposed transatlantic trade deal poured onto the German streets on Saturday on the eve of a visit by Emperor Barack Obama. A loose coalition of trade unions, environmentalists, and consumer protection programs in the northern city said they drew a crowd of 90,000 to march and rally outside the city's opera house. So then, of course, whenever there is a gathering of people, even if it's peaceful, you have this. Police mobilized a large force to keep the peace. Of course, they had to keep the peace and put attendance at 35,000. So the way that they're able to basically squish anybody down, we saw this with the G20 meetings all the time. You saw that particularly in Toronto, where they used horses to trample on people, where they kettled them into different areas, let them sit out in the rain, put them into, they kidnapped them first, unmarked cars, non-identified security of some sort, we're not even sure, put them into these vans, unmarked vans, brought them into what is a detention center, a temporary detention center, and then they were released later on, and a lot of them were not even given any form of knowledge of why they were put in jail. Oops, let's get back on track. On a visit to London on Saturday, Obama sought to address skeptics' fears head-on, admitting that some past trade agreements have, quote, served the interests of large corporations and not necessarily the workers in those countries that participate in them. This is what I have been saying about NAFTA and GATT as well. And then we look at this one right here, the TTIP, it's going to be the exact same thing. And what these individuals are there to do is to convince you, because of course they're actors. They're there to convince you of something that isn't true. You see in the movies all the time where individuals are performing stunts and they're hanging off of the side of buildings and everything like this. And they're there to convince you it's real so that you lose that sense that you're watching the movie and believe that this is reality. So you feel like it's entertaining and it's exciting. But it's not the case. And this is another example of that, except it's happening actually in reality. But these individuals are trying to really sway you in the wrong direction. Obama's trip to open an industrial technology fair and holds with talks with Chancellor Angela Merkel and other European leaders was intended to lend momentum to flagging efforts to see the world's biggest trade pact finalized this year. They're trying to push it through, as always. And of course, you and I don't have a say in it. But what we do have a say in is the ability to speak up against it. The TTIP has run into major opposition, not just in Europe's top economy, Germany, where critics have raised the specter of eroding ecological and labor market standards and condemned secrecy shrouding the talks. And the reason I mentioned this last paragraph here is because of the secrecy. So hold on to that just for a second here. I'm going to go to this article. The US president warned the UK would be at the back of the queue, that's a quote, for a trade deal with America if it quits Brussels. So it's a threat. It's threatening here. And this is interesting. Obama saying this, basically threatening, if you get out of the EU, you're not going to be our friend. But his threat provoked outrage and scorn from the pro-Brexit campaigners who dismissed it as yet another scaremongering ploy from the pro-EU lobby. Of course, Obama's just reading off the teleprompter. This is not his job, but he's just there to basically speak the words of the corporations, those who support him and all of the other leaders. The general public doesn't want free trade agreements. I guess I'll just put my 2 cents in here right now before I forget. But in order to do trade with another country, just like you have to do trade with another individual, which they're trying to get rid of course, you have to go to the big box stores to do that. But what this really breaks down to is for one country and another country, they don't need to sign a huge deal that forces you to take away your liberties and everything. They could just do a deal. They don't need to sign into a partnership. They could just consistently do good deals and do good business. You know, if you own a business and your customers regularly come into your store, you don't need to get them to sign onto a paper to say, you need to promise you're going to be here every single week. Okay? Or else I don't want your business. That's not how it works. That's not a true business offering. You leave the door open and they can come as they wish. That's a true business. But of course, that's not how this is. And that's not what it's about. Of course, we know the deeper teachings here. Now there's no way you can probably see it, but I highly, highly recommend, and I rarely tell people to actually, everyone to look at this right here, but this is so important, so amazing, the individual that put this together. This is the Thebilderberg, and this shows you a chart, and you know, if you zoom in on it, because this is zoomed out all the way, you'll see all the different connections between the people at the Bilderberg meetings and all the corporations or the the sectors of government that they're involved in, and you can see how interconnected it all is. You know, you always hear from the so-called skeptics. I don't even necessarily like to hear that word being used because it's thrown on either side. But the people who don't know the truth, let's say, about the collusion in corporations and, you know, how could one man be involved in all of this, and how could they have, there's so many moving parts in a government, how can they all be corrupt? It doesn't work like that. Look at this here where you have approximately 120, 130 people from Bilderberg and how they can control basically or have involvement with every single major corporation and even mid-level corporations and then other sectors of government all around the world. Everybody can be controlled because you only need to have a few people controlling the rest of them. If you have the CEO and the president of a company knowing what's going on, knows the deal, then the rest of that company is all compartmentalized in their own sectors. They don't need to be under the control directly of, let's say, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, whoever. It's only the top people, the 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever it is, need to be on the in at some degree. They're, of course, compartmentalized in their own right. But that's how you do it. You have to see this chart. It's excellent. I want to move on here. This is an incredible article as well, at least with the facts that they're bringing up. The Intercept.com is saying this: the revolving door data displayed in the above visualization, you could check it out for yourself. I didn't show you the visualization, it's hard to see on the screen, but reveals 55 cases. This is one corporation, okay? 55 cases of individuals moving from positions at Google into the federal government, and 197 individuals moving from positions inside the government to jobs at Google. This is the revolving door, and Google is just one example of that. Google's not a search engine for you to look things up. You give information to Google. That's the way it works. They've given you an avenue to search for your daily things that you need. But what has actually happened here is that you have been shoveling data into Google, which is therefore brought into the government. They are intertwined entirely. Don't ever consider anything other than this. Switching gears, no one works in 1 in 5 U.S. families. In 2015, there were 16 million families with no member employed. That's the way the statistics are right now. 20% of the people. Huge facts showing you what happens when you allow corporations to take over governments. This is what has been the result. They consistently purport that everything is just fine in the economy, but you look at the actual real facts, this one being a huge indicator. You know what, I don't think I even brought this up in my video I did on all different indicators you can check out. Huge. This is what I believe is so important. You need to look at the actual amount of people employed. From my book, I always reference this one because I believe it's very important. In 1970, the average home price was about $27,000. 2010, it's $270,000. That's a tenfold increase, right? 40 years. The median household income for 1970 was $9,000. 40 years later, it's $50,000. That's a five-fold increase. So what it shows you is that, yes, everything's rising. You have inflation in the system. But your job, your annual salary, let's say the median annual wage, does not keep up with the price of, whatever it might be, houses or electricity or whatever. It doesn't keep up. You can have a boom or you can even have a bust. Regardless, the wages are barely inching up year over year. And what you have is a disaster. This is what's happening today. This is what you see. You see people struggling on the streets. You see people having real problems, and this cannot be solved by partnerships and agreements and everything like this. Look at this. The U.S. Justice Department said it has withdrawn a request to force Apple to reveal data from a cell phone linked to a New York drug case after someone provided the federal investigators with the phone's passcode. So they didn't ever need it in the first place. They are able to get in whenever they want. It's a little bit silly that they made a whole big deal about all of this when they steal every little piece of data. This is what they try to do. They try to make it seem legitimate. Like, look, Apple, let us get in. Come on. They really need us. We really need to get in there. And they really whine and complain all in the media, making it seem like it's a show. The NSA has all the data. They have everything. They have everything we've ever done. Why would they ever need the passcode to an iPhone? I mean, this is ridiculous. I at least like the surface level, how they basically said, no, you're not getting in. At least I like that. But, it's nothing but comedy. That's what it is. When you look at this, it's like watching a sitcom. People watch sitcoms. I read information like this. I read mainstream media to get a laugh. Probably shouldn't do that, but, that's just how I am. As the average age of farmers globally creeps higher and retirement looms, Japan has a solution. That's right, a solution. Robots and driverless tractors. So once again, robotics and automation replacing individuals in the workforce. That's the solution, right? But who's going to buy the food for you that you're farming if there's nobody working in order to support all that? Who's going to fix the tractors? Who's going to build all these farms? Who's going to take care of everything? If there's nobody there able to do the jobs, you need to provide more jobs. You need to have an economy which supports jobs. That's what needs to happen. Look, Mao, no hands, China's roadmap to self-driving cars. I'm not going to get into the article, just wanted to say again that this is going everywhere. We have all of these driverless cars with the Google cars going around. You have cars that park themselves, cars that drive themselves. You have, again, the tractors, and you have, all sorts of different robotics and automation that are great, that are excellent, that really make life easier, no doubt. But the ultimate and undeniable fact is that this will replace jobs. That's a fact. The jobs that exist today will be replaced, many of them, by robotics and automation. That's a fact. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. Last but not least, if you found the video informative, you will definitely find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. If you head over to Amazon, they have a look inside feature, which will allow you to flip through the pages of the book and see if you like it. Take care. Just a quick note at the end here. Just want to thank each and every one of you once again. I don't get a chance to do so on every video, but absolutely, I do appreciate all of your comments. Anything that you're willing to say on there, if you want to just give your opinion, constructive criticism, say hello, say thank you. I do appreciate it all. And remember that each and every comment pushes these videos higher up on the YouTube search rankings. When you give me a thumbs up, that helps me as well. It helps to push those videos up, and it helps to get the truth out there. That's what's the most important. I could be doing videos about, the top 5 stocks for this month and the top 3 stocks to sell this month and all this little silliness. And I'll get way more views. I'll probably get, probably realistically about 3 to 5 times more views. But then I wouldn't be speaking the truth because I don't believe in that. In fact, I have no paper at all. I owned paper that a little bit, actually, small percentage, but I did own some, and I sold all of it December 31st, 2007. That was the last time I had any, and I haven't purchased any since then because I saw what was going to happen, and we can see that today. Now, before I get off into a tangent, just basically wanted to suggest that I do thank you, and I'm really appreciative of all of the donations that I'm receiving and everything. If you can't donate, all I ask is you give me a thumbs up, you give me a comment. That's it. If you do that, you watch these videos and you give me a thumbs up and everything else, that's excellent. I really do appreciate that very much. It's very important to me. Thank you, and take care.